This is Bless Radio. It's 6 p.m. UK time, and this is the spiritual discussion program. I am in southeast London, and with me as usual is Gregory. Gregory, how are you, and how is the weather where you are?
One is fine. It is bright, but still a bit cold.
Bright and bit cold. Okay, similar to here in London, where it is bright, a little chilly, and a little windy as well. So welcome, listeners, to the spiritual discussion program. The aim of on Bless Radio, the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushin. And every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic tonight is making the right decision. Making the right decision. If you have any questions or comments, you're welcome to join us with any questions. You can contact us, I should say, on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one, .com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And I also want to say Eid Mubarak to the Muslims who are celebrating. It was on Sunday. Well, depends where you are in the world. So many people were celebrating on Sunday. Some yesterday it started, and it's a 3-day festival Eid. So that is Eid ul-Fitr, which comes after the month of fasting of Ramadan. So that was one celebration. There was also on Sunday in UK, Happy Mother's Day or Mother's Day. So I wish all the mothers in UK, I know again it's gone, but that was on Sunday, we celebrated that. And there's one more thing, the clocks went forward in UK and Europe on Sunday as well. So we have all gone 1 hour forward, which means basically you get up 1 hour earlier, your body at least. The time might be the same time your clock says, but your body has to get used to getting up 1 hour earlier and so on. Yes, so I just wanted to share all that. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Uprushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Abdurrahim. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic that we are discussing tonight is making the right decision. Making the right decision. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Now, Gregory, you know I like to look up the meaning of the topics, the meaning of the words in the topic in the dictionary. So I did that, and here's what I found. The first word we have is making, and there it describes that word making, the activity or process of making, well, I'll just bypass that word, or producing something. So the activity or process of producing something. What do you say about this description there in the dictionary there, Gregory?
Well, things such as you mentioned, although no framework has been given, it is still very helpful, although it produces a partial picture.
Okay. Well, of course, I understand there's no context because we haven't said what we are making. So it just has to be a description of us making something. So until we have that context, we can't say. But for tonight's topic, we are saying making the right decision. So about that is what we are going to discuss. So, okay, so it's the process of making a decision, basically. Okay. Not making, I should say producing in this, because the making is the same word. Okay, let's continue. So the next word is keyword, I'll call it right. So I've got two meanings coming from the dictionary. First one, it says morally good, justified, or acceptable. And they give an example actually. They say, I hope we're doing the right thing. So that first one, Gregory, the meaning of the word right is morally good, justified, or acceptable. Is that, how can I say, good for our discussion?
It is difficult to accept these expressions, but the overall picture can be seen. And the example that he gave them, we hope we are making the right decision. That is more of an opinion. That is, so semantically, it's still very narrow.
Okay. I think what we'll do, Gregory, we won't go into further, how can I say, question on that. We just continue. And as we go in the show, hopefully things will become clearer. The idea of going to these meaning of these words is to get put out the concepts so that there's some sort of thing that we can work on. And it looks like there's a bit of work to be done on what these concepts. So that's okay. As you said, there are pointers. In the past, we've said these are pointers. They don't have to be perfect. They give us a direction to look at. So, okay. So the next meaning, again, for the word right, I found, it says true or correct as a fact. How about this one?
Yes.
Okay.
It is usable, but on one framework.
But on what framework, I think you said? Is that right?
Yeah, on what framework is it a fact?
I see. Okay. Maybe we can look at that in this moment now. What framework should we be looking at then, Gregory? Is it this? I'm trying to understand. Yeah, what framework are we what is it that we should be looking at? What framework?
The framework is the reference framework, which is that of nature, through which all that exists came into existence. That is a framework that must always be used. Else, any discussion has no meaning. And for something to have any meaning, it must be on the framework in which those who are involved within that framework came into existence.
Okay. I got. All right. So we look at this subject, or every subject that we look at, even in our shows, is nature. So, okay, as you say, that's where how we came. From that we came into this world, nature. So that makes sense. Okay, so okay. We'll continue. The next word there is decision, and there I found three different definitions in the dictionary for decision. First one is a conclusion or resolution reached after consideration.
That is still helpful.
Okay. Then the next one, the action or process of deciding something or resolving a question.
That's a bit of a tautology, because a decision is referring to a decision. So that's something which may not hold.
Actually, that is what the topic is about, making the right decision. And it is, it doesn't say right, but it just says the action or process of, you could say, of deciding or coming something or resolving a question. So it's a process of coming to a decision. So it says that's just exactly what our topic is about. Okay, the next one is the ability or tendency to make decisions quickly. Really? I don't think that seemed decisiveness. I think these are adjective or something like that. They're not the direct definition of the word decision. So okay, so I'm going to leave that out. Let's leave that out. The first one was the best one. So a conclusion or resolution reached after consideration. So it's something you consider before you come to a decision. Okay. So just to remind again, the topic that we are discussing tonight is making the right decision. Okay. Now, Gregory, in fact, I got so many questions on this topic because everybody, I'm sure, will have, because we all have to make decisions in life. So you have to think about, the situation you're in, for example, and every moment we are making decision in something. So it's a very good topic in that sense. So that's where my first question starts then. Every day we are faced with multiple decisions. Some are big and important due to the impact on yours and others' lives, e.g., let's say career, relationship, business. While others are maybe less serious, like what to eat or where to go for going out, entertainment, and then and then we have lots of decisions, like I say, Gregory, and then there's a need to prioritize the decisions. Which one you can maybe there's a difficult decision which you likely to be, well, I know everybody's a different way, they act differently, but sometimes with the difficult decision we can be procrastinating, delaying till the last minute to make a decision. I'm talking about a difficult decision. And so I'm wondering that, Gregory, how should we address these, let's say, difficult decisions? Should one put all one's attention on it to reach an answer and put everything else on the hold? Or like the other extreme, if I can call it, which is procrastinate, you say it's difficult, so you just think, no, I can't decide now, let me leave it. And then let's say some deadline approaches where you have to make that decision, and then you make it closer to the deadline. So what's the approach, Gregory, when you have a difficult decision? Do you put all your energy into it in one go now? Or should you, I use the word procrastinate or delay, and make it last minute? I'm using the word last minute as well.
Well, thanks for this particular scenario you painted. Every decision is important. The difficulty in making a decision depends on the individual, how the individual has prepared himself in the past or how he experiences. As usual, there must be a reference framework for decision making. This reference framework has its basis first in deeds, secondly in thoughts, and in one's intuitions. When a decision is to be made, then there must be clarification. Is this an intuitive decision? Is it a decision in one's thoughts or in one's deeds? That which is intuitive is holistic. Once the individual, through personal observations, has come to the realization that the intuition is and is real, then it reckons with one's intuition. with its intuition. At the same time, many decisions are taken in one's thoughts. And subsequently, these decisions which have been made in one's thoughts, there are also decisions which sometimes affect the deeds or have an impact on the deeds. Therefore, these three categories have to align. When you have the scenario of a personality that is always on the alert and is always vigilant in his or her intuitions, vigilant in thoughts and in deeds, then the last point where a decision has been made becomes simple. It becomes not difficult. If, however, one's intuitions have been ignored, in spite of the sensing of something terrible about to happen, also the case in which even in one's thoughts, because one's intuitions has now impacted one's thoughts, and there's that inner sensing, and it is ignored, many a time it is when these decisions or this lack of taking into consideration one's intuitions, one's thoughts, the lack of it in which things have precipitated into deeds, that is when it hits the individual. And then it becomes a difficult decision. Of course, it's a difficult decision. It's difficult because the roots where one should have found a solution even before these difficult and challenging decisions came, they were ignored. And that is why it is said it is difficult. This happens on a daily basis. It happens to the individual. It happens to states and nations. The decisions are difficult because the intuitions, the gentle guidance, which should have been taken into consideration with the flow of impressions in nature, in creation, have been ignored. That is why it is challenging.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this detailed answer and picture that you've painted here in this question about the having difficult decisions. But there's a number of, let's say, key points you have made, which I observed. Like the first thing is to have clarification, because once you're clear, then of course what you think is difficult is not so difficult. So there's a process. We know there's a decision making is a process, and that means there should be a way, a starting point or criteria. Well, I say that to make it sound very technical, but it's not meant to be taken as technical. Rather, that yes, there is a process, and what we are doing in this discussion is to bring that concept of this process, what is involved. And of course, if you have a clarity of the process, then things become, it's easier to handle the decision or come to the decision. So, and you identified three areas, if I can use the word like that, which are, we have deeds, and the world of deeds, the world of thoughts, and the world of intuition. We are working in all these worlds, which are work, which we, let's say, we need to make a decision. So now the intuition is really the key and the leading activity, you can say, in making a decision. And people might be wondering, oh, why is that? We have the brain, we can think things out. What is the intuition? How does that work? And then we also mentioned there are deeds. So in a way, I would say the deed is the outcome of the decision, or maybe you're practicing. In the deeds, you could say you're practicing to see, because you're talking about making the right decision. So you could, let's say, try something physically, and then see how it goes, So yes, going back again, Gregory, you were pointing out that we need to be using the intuition. And of course, we'll be having our ideas and thoughts, and of course, we'll carry them out as deeds. That's what the process is. So I'm thinking on that, Gregory. The deeds is like we control that completely. We decide to move to go into an activity, and that becomes a deed. Then the thoughts, we receive them. Let me explore that of the world of thoughts, Gregory. Is there our own thoughts only that we are looking at here, or is it the thoughts? Can we sense other people's thoughts, or how do the thoughts work? Is it purely our own thoughts? Because I'm thinking, even Gregory, there's an inspiration, and sometime you sleep overnight. You think of something, you have a problem to handle, to resolve, and then you have your own ideas initially, and then you sleep overnight, and then something new comes in. If I can call all that thoughts. So, do we only have our own thoughts, Gregory, or do we get ideas from elsewhere?
As a matter of fact, thoughts, the individual generates thoughts, which thoughts are bound to the brain. These are personal thoughts. But the individual is not an island. And the effects of the thoughts of others are easily observable around. And therefore, the effects of the thoughts of others have an impact in also shaping his or her own thoughts. You talked about inspiration. That which is referred to as inspiration is basically one's thoughts which has been kept under pressure, and in bursting forth from the individual is able to unite with the thoughts of others, these thoughts of others that are homogeneous. In the case where, in the scenario that you mentioned, in which one is asleep, in that particular case, you will find that the seed for the thought is there. However, it is not tied to the individual as such, and starting from the seed is able to attract other thoughts, but this time it is not limited to the earthly brain. There are some other impressions which have an impact. So you find that there is the impact of similar thoughts, and there is also the impact of intuitive thoughts. So the combination of this, in which these thoughts are wandering not only around the individual, but in other spaces. One may refer to these as thought spaces or intuitive spaces. In the motion of these objects or these thoughts, they get attracted, or they attract other ones which are homogeneous to it. And finally, they return to the individual. In some cases, the individual has clarity, or better clarity. In some other cases, depending on the nature of the thoughts, the individual becomes even more confused. So, yes, it is there. Thoughts are there, and they do affect the individual. They also affect others. The nature of how these things operate are bound to the laws of nature through which all that exists came into existence, and also in the maintenance and further activities.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer. I can see the process is getting a bit complex with all these different processes, if I can say, or activities. But we'll keep examining them more, and get the clarity. That's what this is meant to have. You have to have a clarity in understanding the process, and also, how do we find this way of making the right decision. So I want to keep exploring that. I just want to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio, excuse me, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Aprushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we are discussing tonight is making the right decision. Making the right decision. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down on the home page, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And you can, as I say, you can listen to us on Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again that's the number 1, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is making the right decision. And that you can also listen to a recording of this show exactly after the show, of course, exactly on YouTube, exactly the same way, which is, so go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is making the right decision. And of course, you can listen to the recordings of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. Again, that's the number 1 there. Now, Gregory, we've talked about 3 activities, you can say, involved in making a decision. We'll talk about the deeds, thoughts, and also the intuition. And I'm thinking people have heard the word intuition. They may have different ideas of what the intuition is, and even how effective the intuition is. So first of all, let's clarify what the intuition is. Gregory, you mentioned thoughts. Now, what's the difference between thoughts and intuition?
That which you refer to as thoughts, that has its framework from the earthly brain. That means it arises, it's a product of the earthly brain, the frontal brain in its operation, the impressions it has gathered locally. Within that, one may consider what we refer to as thoughts. That's the ability to make decisions based on the framework of the earthly brain, depending on how much external impressions it has gathered. Because it's needed to collate all these external impressions to build a picture for itself. That which is referred to as the intuition has no framework from the earthly brain. Its framework its origin is from that energizes the physical body, that is the soul, or the core of the soul, which is spirit. So in the origin of the intuition is the intuitive perception which originates from the spirit. Because the spirit is not bound to the earthly brain, its area of activity is much broader. Its area of activity covers not only the world of matter, but also covers that which is beyond the world of matter, right up to its origin, which is of spirit. So one can perceive already that one's intuition has a much bigger base to pick impressions from and utilize as compared to one's thoughts, which are tied to the limitations of the earthly brain.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for clarifying this understanding of thoughts and the intuition and the field of activity of thoughts and the intuition. And as you've pointed out, the thoughts are earthly world, they work in the earthly world or belong to the earthly world, and then the intuition is much, let's say, wider area, covering. I'm going to make it such a broad way that people have to really reflect on that. So there's earthly and, let's say, the heavenly world, and the intuition is from a heavenly world. So it's much higher than the earthly, if we can get that way of seeing this, understand this. So there is the thoughts. Everything's important, as you said, Gregory. Every decision is important, and every activity is important. But then there is this, I don't want to use the word hierarchy, but the field of activity of each. Yes, I'm going to just keep using the word activity. There's a field of activity, and thoughts are limited to the earthly world, whilst the intuition, although of course it does act in the earthly world, it is much more it originates actually from the heavenly world, which is another way you can look at this word heavenly. For us, in this context, is a spiritual. So the intuition is a spiritual, comes from the spiritual world, let's say, which is above the earthly. And I'm using the word deliberately above to give it a bit higher importance as well. All these things will become clearer as we continue to discuss it, deeper into this in our discussion. So now, all these points, Gregory, we are saying are necessary in making a decision. We have the earthly deeds, we have the earthly thoughts, and we have this, I'm going to use the word spiritual intuition, acting in making a decision. Now, we've sort of distinguished what are thoughts and what is the intuition. But what I want to explore now, Gregory, the intuition further, is, you know, the intuition, Gregory, is that, how can I say, does it give you answers instantly? I'm just trying to get that idea. You know, let's say we were talking at the beginning about the difficulty of making a decision. And the first point you said we need clarity. And then there's these three activities: the physical deeds, the earthly deeds, you can say earthly thoughts, and then this spiritual intuition. So I want to explore the spiritual intuition now. What I want to understand is how does that help us to get a decision? Is it like, I'm thinking now, Gregory, when we say a prayer, and that is sent us to the Almighty, and then it returns. Well, it may return, it may not return. Sometimes it doesn't return, or we don't. If it returns, we are not aware of it. So, how does the intuition work, Gregory? Is it like a prayer that we send out, and then the response comes, you know, whenever it comes, or is it something more immediate? That let's say, like you say, let's say you have a question, and you have a sensing within you, like they say, your heart tells you that's the direction you must go, and not some other direction. So how does that? How can we understand this intuition, Gregory? The working of it, I should say.
First, the intuition basically is an impression that has arisen through spiritual activities. Therefore, it carries so much power. These impressions, which initially had not been thought about, because the thought is referring to the frontal brain, but you have impressions which had not been considered initially. This impression, they strike the individual, and therein lies the greatest difficulty. Because the thoughts have not been involved, and it now has received impressions, it ignores the impressions. When the impressions, these deep impressions, are ignored, it comes a time in which, in quotes, the warnings of possible manifestations have been swept aside. As at the time the brain gets involved, something adverse must have had an impact on the brain, in which it starts thinking, oh, how do I deal with this? But where the individual alert enough or had been practicing, when impressions come to it, in which initially it finds no basis, if it had been alert enough and vigilant and uses these impressions, which in quotes seem to have no basis within the thoughts, then it would have found a solution to many a challenge, to many a difficulty. But because it has ignored it, it becomes difficult because it was unprepared. A simple example one might give. Here you find that you wish to travel away from your neighborhood and you make your preparations. And then along the way, you find that it's as if you've lost your way. And you thought you made very good preparations. And then you start finding ways to turn around and do this and do that. And you are completely lost. Some people who are used to such, they calm down and reflect very carefully. But what happens? Days later, you find that that path which one has been compelled to take turns out to be the path to a solution which it had not even considered at the beginning. But the experiences it has gathered along that path turns out to be very useful. Many people go through this and have learned from it. Another example one might give, many person in going about their business experience or are in contact with or see some people undergoing terrible suffering. And what was their response? They ignored it. It never touched them. Fair enough. Because they themselves, they think they are immune from such. Only when subsequently, before too long, something precipitates an activity in which they themselves have to undergo severe suffering. Such could be an accident. Such could be in the case of war. Such could be anything. Only then will it awaken within them. And they say, oh, had I known, I perceived this, that, there, but I didn't pay attention. So every experience that the individual encounters is useful. These experiences rap at the door of the individual who is not too conceited, who is not too arrogant. The impressions which assail the individual's soul, these impressions are meant to open up the path that leads to one's intuition, to one's spirit. And in that case, once the path leading to the spirit is not clogged with inconsequentials or pettiness, that individual is open, for the path is clear, such that in its further experiencing is able to draw from without what it has seen and also from within what the Spirit provides, is able to unite them, to experience them deep within itself. And in that particular construct of uniting these, many an experience which would have caused it a catastrophe is avoided. Therefore, the experiences count. The opening up of one's intuition doesn't mean that the individual will have no challenge. Of course, the individual will always have challenges. It is how the individual goes about sorting out these challenges, rearranging the impressions from deep within that it has come across, the impressions, the outward impressions. It is the rearrangement. It is how it's able to put them together, the union and the alliances. That is what counts. For it is these structures which it will then hold, which will then either open the way for it or close the way. So each one should know there is no one on earth, there is no individual which individual is of spirit, and whilst on earth has the body of flesh and blood, there is no one that does not undergo challenges. It is how they have used the building blocks which have been provided through one's intuition, through one's thoughts, and through one's states. That in itself is the decision that is referred to. As long as these arrangements, these compositions are in accordance with the laws of creation, through which it itself, the human personality, came into existence as a human spirit germ, striving to become conscious and subsequently self-conscious. These same laws that permitted it to incarnate on earth in order to experience, these same laws that have returned to it, the human personality, what it had sown in the past, such that it needs to taste of it and to make a decision whether to continue to enjoy it or to move away from it. As long as it realizes this, then joyfully and filled with happiness is able to loosen itself from that which is ignoble. For the laws of creation that permitted it to experience, once it has made the right decision to use these laws as the framework of making decisions, then through its activities, it will be drawn up higher and higher. Then it needs have no fear, for it will then proceed with confidence, and subsequently it will proceed courageously. That is what is required of the human personality.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer and picture you've been painting. how our intuition works. Actually, before this radio show, there was a program on TV I was watching where people who have talents, but they were not able to, how can I say, apply them. They wanted to get that these talents were to, they wanted to have a business or career in that field of their talents or passion even. They were, for whatever reason, they could not start on that journey, or they started it and they didn't go very far. They didn't achieve what they wanted. Then they found some other job, you can say, which was not, which let's say within their capability, but wasn't their passion, let's say. So I want to give the example of this. So there's this person who was a lorry driver. He became a lorry driver. That was not his passion. And then he had an accident where he could not continue as a lorry driver. Then he remembered his original passion, you can say, which was, I could call it creating, making furniture from wood, but in a very, how can I say, in a masterful, he had a real talent, let's say, to produce a wonderful, masterful furniture, artistically well designed. And it was just, let's say, unique types of furniture with his own vision that he was making. So yes, it could be a table or sideboard or any item that you find ordinarily, but the way he made it, it showed some, how can I say, outstanding design in it. Okay, so, but he wasn't able to develop that before, but this accident of fate, if I can call it like that, led him to now seriously consider that direction. And then he started that, it's purely for him individually, because he was recovering, he had time to do that. Anyway, and then he realized there were people interested in that, what he was making. However, in this particular program, the people, they have a talent, but it's not yet ready for making a business, sellable, you could say, that he can live on it. That was, you could say, his obstacle that he was having. So in this program, the people, these people are given help, advice, and so on through people who already have achieved success, in developing their talent and, in quotes, selling their, this whatever trade they happen to work in. So this is what this show was showing, but what I'm pointing to here, Gregory and listeners, like you said, we might have a wish or an issue or difficulty that we have having to decide, should we pursue it or we should not pursue it. Then for whatever reason, we are not able to pursue it. And then something happens to whatever you have decided to do as your job, for example, which is not your passion, and then that comes to an end through an accident, in this case, and then your passion is reignited to go again to what you wanted to do. And this time, the doors have opened and the opportunity is, let's say, leads to success, not like you had in the past. So, that Gregory, they say patience is a virtue. So here you can see that. It didn't mean they had the talent immediately to do everything. It just had to be developed still. But you can say, don't give up on your dream, because it can still manifest. You just cannot know it when it might happen and how it will happen. So in this way, we were talking about the intuition. When the moment is right, you could say, that's when things work out, and not always how you think it must be. So I just wanted to share that with the listeners, to add to what Gregory has said there. So thank you, Gregory, for your answer there. Dear listeners, I want to let you know you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. And if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is making the right decision. Making the right decision. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1 there, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is making the right decision. And you can also listen to a recording of this show also on YouTube after the show. And again, you put exactly the same words in the text box when you get to youtube.com, which are Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space Grail Message, space making the right decision. And of course, you can listen to our other previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. Again, that's the number 1. Now, Gregory, we're talking about making the right decision, and we've talked about the activity of the intuition here, which is very, you could say, necessary ingredient in coming to the right decision. Now, what I was wondering, Gregory, you can make a right decision. You can also make, of course, wrong decision. Now, can one know, Gregory, in advance if a decision you're going to make, or making, sorry, that it is right or wrong? Is it possible to know that something's going to be successful, or will it fail in advance?
It is possible. First, before one proceeds, instead of using the word making, one will want to replace that word making with construct. So the intuitive expression one wants to use for making is construct. With that word construction, one can see an activity, which construction only means there are other parts that need to be put together. As long as these parts are put together, assembled together in the right order, such that where the intuition comes in, that means the constructions of one's intuition, the constructions of one's thoughts, and the direction the individual is proceeding, to ensure that these three align, then such is in accordance with the laws of creation, and the individual will benefit immensely. When the word successful is used, there are many who in their activities decide to violate others, and in quotes, they are successful in doing that. But such success, in quotes, are worse than disasters because there will be returns. Therefore, it is how the individual has put things together in order to construct a solution. That is the key. That is what is of benefit. So it is the how, not that you just have one is successful. Do I know I'm going to be successful or not? How would you know when you haven't considered the clarity of what you yourself wish to accomplish and what is available currently in order to be able to reach that goal? Many just consider that something will drop from anywhere without making the effort. There are many a person who have to struggle and struggle. A typical example which one may give is about some footballers. In the UK, there was a particular one. He was not the best in the team. He was not even average. But he himself realized that he was no good. And that became the basis for continuous training in knowing how to kick the ball at difficult areas to score a goal. Of course, he kept trying and trying. Could he have told himself he'd be successful? Of course not. It is the trials, continuous trying, never giving up, vigilance and alertness. That is what brings the individual to a final goal. So for some who haven't started and they ask themselves, am I going to be successful? The question is, what work have they done? What have they constructed? They want to know if the path they are taking will bring them success. Such are very lazy ones, for they know very well that he or she who dares will win. So first, let them clarify themselves. That clarification is necessary. Then they will be on the right path. And being on the right path, I'm pulling things together to construct a further path. That is the right way to go. That is the right decision. And not from the beginning asking themselves, oh, am I going to be successful? That is the path which is taken by the very slothful people.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for that answer there. What you're pointing to is not about thinking of success, but it's the work that is required to, in quotes, reach the success. But you don't make, you just work. Obviously, the aim is to be successful. We understand that, but you don't make the success in your head the goal as itself, but more about and how can I put it? Not the goal. I mean, everybody wants success for sure, but do not make that as if if you don't achieve it. So in other words, you will, let's say you fail many times. Does that mean you now stop or give up? No, you keep your dreams and hopes alive all the time, and constant work and vigilance, as you said, Gregory, that will lead you there. And you cannot know when it will be. This is not something you can just say it will be this. I'm going to make a target and I will achieve it. Well, you can always have a target, but it doesn't mean you will achieve it in that target. Okay, thank you for that. Now, Gregory, another thing we mentioned many times in our radio shows before is about balance. So let me give this scenario. Let's say and all of these scenarios we've been looking at is really one person with his own wish to achieve something, let's say. And in this case, let's say somebody's running their own business. We're not talking about some big company. They're just their own business, and they dedicate their life to that. And then it seems that because of the time they devote to that business, this is at the expense of their life with their family, social life, you can say. And that is what you can say they've made a sacrifice. But there's a consequence of that on the family as well. Maybe the children missing out on that parent who is running the business, even the partner of that running person who's running the business, also missing out, being with their partner. So, and this is what I'm asking here, Gregory, is a question of balance. Should one? It's very hard to say, because if you don't put in this effort to run the business, then in quotes you won't get successful and you might even collapse. But then there's a cost, like you say, sacrifice to make that business work. You now have sacrificed your time with your family and other things outside of the business. So what I'm wondering about that, Gregory, is that right? Because we're talking about making the right decision. It's right in a way because the business working, you have to give the time for that. And then there's a cost of that, which is, shall I say, neglect of social and family life. Is that right?
In the first instance, one is unaware of that individual's intuitions. one is unaware of his thoughts. Even if he or she says this, you may say something, your thoughts are somewhere else. One is only aware at the final efforts that is perceivable, that is observable by others. That means the deeds. So if one is not aware of one's thoughts or of one's intuition, how then can one measure or say this is right or not right? Because only a path, that path which is of deeds, which many can observe, only that is now considered as being successful or not successful. What had been stressed again and again is that one's intuitions, one's thoughts, if one's intuitions and one's thoughts are brought into it holistically, then it's for the individual to judge or not judge whether he or she is on the right path. So the scenario that has been painted has only showed us only one part of it. The other parts, one is unaware, which is a typical scenario in the activities of men, because only the externals are seen. The internals, what goes on in one's thoughts and one's intuition, all right, the actuality of it is never known. And it is that which is not known to others. Those are the things that really count, not the final perceivable things which we call deeds. So once everything is brought into it, then maybe balance and the way to approach many an issue may be judged if one is fine enough to do any judgment. But the first thing is that there must be the intuitive perceptions brought into the overall, and also one's thoughts, and the alignment of one's intuition with one's thoughts and with one's deeds. As of the family, unless they themselves can perceive these things are right, then most likely their judgments will be wrong.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for what you've said there. You've shown, really, you could call it a hidden world, but very important world of, we seeing, let's say, making judgments on the deeds, like you said, the manifesting deeds, and forgetting that there's an inner world of activity as well. Because it's not like somebody's deliberately trying to harm someone running a business. They're doing something which is meant for benefit to everyone, but it seems to sacrifice on the surface may look like, oh, he doesn't care about the family. I say he, could be she, who's running the business and the family is being sacrificed. So what I can say there, the relationship between the family and the other party, in the family, there must be, in quotes, communication and understanding. And then everybody whatever they know there's a sacrifice, when they know there's a sacrifice being done, they will not feel that as a pain on themselves, or negatively, let's say. So once that appreciation is there, then as you say, Gregory, this is about the inner world. We don't know what really is going on. We just see the outside physical activity, and we're now making judgment. Oh, this person is this way, that person is that way, and but what is in the intention? What is underneath everything? It could be for the good, but people can see it in the opposite way. So it's very important, really, to know. I mean, the person who's doing it, of course, he knows what they're doing. They know what he or she knows what they're doing, and then the family that is being connected with it have to also be aware of it somehow. So yes. So these things you can say, we need to reflect very well about them. So thank you for that. Now, Gregory, what about prayer? I did mention it a little bit earlier, because making a decision, at the moment it looked like either one person making a decision on their own, or perhaps they share their ideas with a friend or family, somebody, or colleague, whatever, to, you could say, develop their ideas, what they want, to make a decision. And then you said you need to use your intuition, which is your own self process within yourself. But what about prayer, Gregory? Because the Almighty, surely He is the most all-wise, and if we do not, let's say, consult the Almighty or ask the Almighty, then it could even be a selfish thing that you're trying to do. So what about that? Should we not pray as well? Or when you're making a decision, important decision, I don't know if it requires every decision, but what about that?
The challenge has always been to understand what prayer is. Prayer is more of a conversation. And strictly speaking, the language which is used for conversation or the language used by the individual for a conversation is that of the intuitive perception. And that prayer only rises if and only if it resonates with the laws of creation. So, if you consider that the individual wishes to converse with his maker or her maker, and her thoughts or his thoughts are at variance with the intuitions, are at variance with the deeds, with the words, then such comes to naught, a complete waste of time and energy. For if it impacts one's intuition, then it is felt so very deeply in the conversation in the conversations such as the one Christ gave. Such is the way forward. Else, let no one get in quotes into prayer when he or she does not vibrate in it at all. For their thoughts are at variance with their intuition, at variance with their deeds, and therefore they should not expect a return which should be beneficial to them when they have already blocked the path that will allow the purity of the prayer to rise.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for that answer and again explanation of how true prayers works, and not, let's say, our own ideas and expectations, which are mostly really our own selfish wishes. So thank you for that. Thanks for explaining that. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is making the right decision. Making the right decision. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are broadcasting also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show tonight, which is making the right decision. And you can also listen to the recording of this show after the show tonight, also on YouTube. Again, go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, making the right decision. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we're broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 there. Now, there's somebody who I shared the topic that we are talking about tonight, which is making the right decision, and they were inspired to write a poem. And I want to share that now. The person is called Mrs. Harriet Jarvis Hoppe, the lady, and she wrote this poem, and she called it Wrestling the Mind. So I'll read it out. Wrestling the mind. When decisions call can be somewhat of a minefield into which many a good intention does fall. To be or not to be, run ragged by the mind, has down the ages become a bane to humankind. Yet simple is the key given to our good Lord's hand, to become simple as little children, as from our very beginning it was always planned. Yet we freely chose the highway of our overactive mind, whose wealth has made all hollow, devoid of life and blind. To the love within Christ's word that rested gentle as a feather, with which our souls to gird, that our plea for clarity, to live and stand aright, be swiftly carried aloft on the shining wings of light. Innocent were we once, before our days grew old. So stand we now on stony ground, as with free will we did make bold. For simple as little children, we no longer know how to be. Thus must we now bend our knee in deepest humility, and listen to this holy word, if in spirit we would once more become free. When a decision we would make, first to prayer we must go, that the love and light of heaven through our veins once more may flow. No wrestling of mind, no racking of body, just a simple, I need help, for his help is ever near. Then simple as little children shall we learn to birth our decisions and cause none to walk in fear. That's a poem written by the Mrs. Harriet Jarvis Hoppe and titled Wrestling the Mind. And it came from the topic of which we are discussing tonight, making the right decision. So Gregory, I don't know if I will say it's a beautiful poem, and it makes quite a few points there of how we should be, or how we should stand, I should say, in when we have to make a decision. It's a bit funny, I would say, because it says, become simple as little children, which was the advice Jesus said, actually. Become simple as little children. Can you help, Gregory, can you shed some words on that, this concept of become as little children?
It is assumed that every person on earth along the line before growing to be an adult was a child. And therefore, they themselves would know what really bothered them and how they proceeded to make requests from their parents or from their guidance. And with children, only that which they really needed, only that they requested for, not more, not less.
Thank you. I think that really explains the simplicity, what the author is saying, trying to put forward here, that become simple. She did say become simple as little children, and you gave that picture there of how the children are simple in their ways, in regards to when they talk to their, make requests, you can say, to their parents. So yes, so become as children, even though we are adult, we should act as if how the children act in their nature, you can say. Okay, that's good. I think there's another point, Gregory. Well, a lot of the points you have said already, we need clarity, There's a plea for clarity to live and stand aright. So, humility, that's another big point there. Stand and for simple as little children, we no longer know how to be. Thus must we now bend our knee in deepest humility. So, Gregory, there's a point being made here that we are not humble now in how we act or think. So, how do we have this right attitude of humility, Gregory? In a way, it should be easy to get it, but some things must have made us lose our way, I think. So, how do we bring humility to our where we stand?
For one who is that it knows it already, and that knowing it already is only a familiarization, an intellectual familiarity with something. That's what gives that notion that one knows it. But in actual fact, the individual lacks the understanding. And because of the lack of understanding, the individual is likely to make a request of that which, strictly speaking, is not beneficial to it. Why? Because it knows it already. There is lack of humility. For when the individual makes requests in humility, it is a perfect admission that it, the individual, realizes that it knows not what to do. Therefore, it asks in humility. So one can now see that because the human personality is humble in its requests, because it admits it knows not how to proceed and has cleaned itself out from the rubbish that rubbish by claiming to know, then you find that within the laws of creation, there are many who are able to approach the individual in thoughts, in deeds, and to offer advice. For the one who proceeds in humility acknowledges that it needs advice. It needs an influx from others. And it will only focus on that which is simple. More of this, the individual who is discerning and who wishes to know more can be examined and weighed in the work, in the light of truth, the Grail Message.
Thanks again, Gregory, for that answer. Now, there's the first line of this poem I would like to look at as well. Again, the poem that is called Wrestling the Mind. So I'll read it here. Wrestling the mind, when decisions call, can be somewhat of a minefield into which many a good intention does fall. So, Gregory, when I look at that, let me continue the second line actually. To be or not to be, run ragged by the mind, has down the ages become a bane to humankind. So, when I see that, Gregory, it looks like good intention. They do say that good intention is not enough, to, let's say, make a right decision or come to the right answer. And it is, she calls it a minefield. This world is like a minefield when you and it falls. Our decisions can fall. And that can lead, the point is we need clarity. And when you have ideas coming left, right, and center, you can say, that can cause a confusion, and you don't know which way to go anymore. So, and even this lady has said, can become a bane to humankind. So you could say, now, I'm trying to see, Gregory, from these words. I guess, Gregory, the key to finding the right answer, because we are saying to make the right decision. How do we make the right decision? I guess, Gregory, you have to keep looking. I know you use the word vigilant, but there's something constantly you need to check. The whatever idea you have, to see if it will, like, let's say, be possible to achieve it, or how to achieve it, let's say, like that. So what can we call that process, Gregory, where we you could say constantly are checking, to assess, you can say, if an idea is going to work, or is we are going the right direction. Let me say that way. How can we know that, or find out, or make progress, let me say, because I've said, given an example earlier on, you might have a dream or passion for some skill that you actually have, and in the beginning, when you try, it doesn't work, and then you do something else totally different, you can say, which you have a skill in it, but it's not your interest. And then sometime fate will bring you back through an accident, let's say, back to what your original idea was. So, my question is in this point on this, Gregory, if you have a dream, is it that you must fulfill that dream? And yeah, that's what, let me say it like that. If you have a dream, should it be that you must fulfill it?
One must look carefully. First, one needs to be successful. What is a dream? What does a dream consist of? That would be the first challenge for the individual. Is it only of intuition? Does it concern of the thoughts or of the deeds? If that dream is on physical deeds which are observable by others, then one's thoughts and one's intuitions first will align to be able to find the paths, to be able to find the paths in the world of matter, in the world of flesh and blood, to be able to accomplish that. If what is required by that dream is physical materiality, that is in accordance to homogeneity. If the dream is only in accordance to one's thoughts, then it must be that one's thoughts and one's intuitions, what has been able to pick, will align. That is in accordance to homogeneity. For the thoughts will attract that which is homogeneous. If, however, the dream is that of the spirit, then in homogeneity, this resonates within the laws of creation or the laws of nature. Then, with the right efforts, they will be realized. The problem is that many talk about dreams. They are talking about physical things. They are mixing up with thoughts. They are mixing up with spiritual things. There is so much confusion. You ask yourself, where is the clarity? And when they are unable to accomplish it, all right, with equal alacrity, they denounce that there is a power that should make things possible for them. So the impressions have always been wrong. People will have dreams. What do they mean by we have dreams? We have a goal, all right? So first and foremost, the individual must clarify itself, what it intends to embark on. To clarify means to clean out all those things, all those structures it holds so tightly, which structures will not stand in accordance with the laws of nature on the laws of creation. That is the reference framework. That is the reference point which many a thing rests, because thoughts are mixed up with deeds, deeds are mixed up with intuition, and then you have a potpourri of that has so many confused things in there. It never gets far. Just as many jump into prayer without realizing what the prayer is. While they say they are praying in deeds, with their mouths opening, reciting what had been written down, their thoughts are somewhere completely different. And their intuitions, if at all they care about the intuitions, are somewhere else, and they never bother. And yet the problem is, why is it that our prayers or our dreams have not been answered? Because the individual has never clarified itself in accordance with the living laws of creation.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer and picture you're giving us. We've come back as you started, really, that there are these three activities of the deeds, the thoughts, and the intuition. And really, for things to happen, for things to really happen, they must align. All these three must align, uniformly. You can't have one, like you can say, your focus cannot be in the air. One dream is this way, the thoughts are somewhere else, and the deeds are somewhere else. They must all align, and you can see that logically, if that happens, then these things can be fulfilled. So, yes. So thank you very much for that, Gregory. Now, listeners, we've come to the end of the show. I just now would like to read from the beginning of the Grail Message, in the foreword, which is titled, "For Your Guidance." The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I'm addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such, it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you're truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Aprushin. Dear listeners, if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a beautiful week and a beautiful month ahead.
Thank you. Same for me, listeners. Yes, it's the 1st of April. Have a beautiful month, and blessings to you for this coming week. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time, with another topic. Take care, good night, and God bless.